Hello everyone, I'm Dr.V. Mohan, and as you know, we are doing this series of videos in relation to food, that is diet, and its association with diabetes and how to control diabetes better using various dietary principles. In my earlier videos, and in case you have missed any of my earlier videos, just go to the top and click and you'll be able to see all my earlier videos where we have talked about healthy eating, the plate concept, the 50-25-25 principle, the role of carbohydrate and why we should restrict it, protein and how to increase it, and we also talked about fiber in my last video. In this video, I'm going to introduce to you a concept which many people may not know about, and that is the glycemic index of a food. Now, how do you define a glycemic index of a food? Now, when you eat certain foods, you know, being somebody with diabetes, that your blood sugar shoots up. In other words, that food can increase your blood sugar very rapidly and it can go very high. There are certain other foods which you eat and your blood sugar does not rise at all. So the glycemic index of a diet is defined as the rise in blood glucose which occurs after a certain food, and this is usually compared with a standard food, for example, either with glucose or with white bread, and it's expressed as a percentage. Now let's say glucose or white bread has a GI or glycemic index of 100. Now if you have any food which has a GI or glycemic index of 55 or below, it is called as a low glycemic index. Between 55 and 70, it's called as a medium glycemic index, and above 70 is referred to as a high glycemic index. Now, why should a person with diabetes know which is a high GI, which is a medium GI, and which is a low GI food? Because if you take a food which is high GI, your postprandial sugars are going to shoot up. Whereas if you take the low GI foods, your sugars will not go up. And therefore, people with diabetes should be specifically looking for what are the foods which are low in GI. Usually it turns out that foods which are higher in protein content and higher in fiber content are also low in GI. There may be exceptions, but that's the general rule. For example, if you take green leafy vegetables, if you take nuts, if you take fat items and protein items, for example, non-veg items, and also certain fruits. For example, if you take apple or guava, they have a low glycemic index. Whereas you take certain other fruits like watermelon and certain other fruits can increase your sugar levels very high. Brown rice will have a much lower GI than white rice. Polished wheat or refined wheat will have a higher GI than whole wheat if it is consumed. Now, therefore, whenever you sit down to have a food, if you know the GI of a food, it is better because it helps you to control your diabetes better. See that you include vegetables as well as pulses and legumes with your meals because they increase your fiber content, help to trap the glucose and prevent it from going very high. Of course, needless to say, desserts which are full of sugar and glucose itself, the diets, the sodas that you take, the soft drinks and so on are loaded with sugar and of a very high GI. For those who use continuous glucose monitoring, you'll find that the moment you take these high GI foods, the sugar just shoots up and hits the ceiling. So it's very important for you to know about the low GI foods and the high GI foods and try to incorporate the low GI foods as far as possible in your diet. Thank you very much.